Welcome to the Legacy Leaders Podcast. Are you doing the best for your client to help them create their legacy? Are you creating a plan that goes far beyond finances to help people ensure that it becomes the driving force behind all decisions? On this podcast, hosts Katie Beth Hand and Stan Miller will help you with growing your practice and your clients' peace of mind. Together, they bring the best and brightest minds to share with you how to help your clients develop their best legacy. And now, here are your hosts, Katie Beth and Stan.
Hey, I'm Doug Herring, and I'm here with Frank Sinclair from Dream Again. And how you doing today, Frank?
I'm good, Doug. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good. Thanks for being here. Just for anybody who doesn't know, Frank is the Chief Encouragement Officer, he calls himself at Dream Again. So he's an empowerment and encouragement coach, works with a lot of businesses here in Colorado Springs. He also is a speaker nationally and does work with clients nationally. The other thing, he has a little, I shouldn't say little, should I, Frank, say he has a radio program, and he's also an author. So I hope that's not too short of a bio, because like we were talking about earlier, we could go all day just talking about all the exciting things that you do.
Yeah, that encapsulates it. Oh, that's
good.
Yeah.
Well, Frank, just to start out, we're talking about legacy, leaving a legacy. I know you've thought a lot about that, and I know a little bit about your family and your kids and your history. Can you tell us just a little bit, for listeners, about your background, how you got into what you're doing, and how you see what you're doing as part of your legacy?
Well, yeah, born in the South, North Carolina, born into segregation. That was my first 8 years of school was in segregation. So I'm a pretty old guy. So we were born into abject poverty and those things. I always had this real intense love of reading, which is part of my legacy actually, because I passed that on to my children as well. I just loved reading, and that was the way that I escaped the horrors of my upbringing and not feeling very valuable or part. So I went into the military when I was 18 into the Air Force, and that's really opened up the world for me, gave me an opportunity to see that the color of my skin didn't necessarily mean that I had a disadvantage in trying to create life, because people here in Colorado, which was my first duty assignment, treated me so awesome. And that's why I ended up coming back here to Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah. Because of how I was treated so well.
Good. Well, I'm glad you like it here. I've been here about 30 years myself. How long have you been here, just out of curiosity?
This year is my 40th year.
40th. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I win,
Yep.
Doug.
Wow. Yeah, you beat me. So then your work with businesses and clients, I mean, literally around the country, right? Speaking engagements around the country. How is that part of your legacy? I mean, obviously you see that as kind of a calling, right?
Well, it is a calling. It's what I was designed for and put on earth. I believe every human being, since each and every one of us is unique in our own selves, so it follows that each and every one have a specific reason for being. And that is my reason for being, is to inspire people forward in their reasons for being, and to try to help create space so that people can discover their own unique purposes.
Yeah. And I suspect that in many ways, you probably see yourself leaving a legacy, not only for your family and friends, but even for your clients, right?
I think we all leave legacies for our clients, right? Right? Yeah, if you're in business, if you're not leaving a legacy, you might want to get out, because that's really part and parcel of what of the process of doing business. We're only in business of one thing, and this is universal. It is to serve other humans well.
Yeah. And do you go about that intentionally, or do you feel like that's just part of who you are? And clients probably realize, at least from, the people I've talked to that work with you, it seems like they realize it from just the way you do business, your encouragement. And I forgot to mention earlier, you have I don't know how many thousands of people are on your Be Encouraged Facebook group.
On nearly 51,000.
Wow.
Yeah, in 120 countries, in every state in the union it's been watched.
Okay. So we might say that's a bit intentional as well.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah, I was asking my son one day, I said, you know what? The story and the narrative of encouragement does not go out very often. How can I have a greater reach? And he said, Dad, why don't you make a Facebook page? So I did, and 4 years ago is when the Be Encouraged community began.
Okay. So 51,000 people in 4 years. That's pretty good.
Well, yeah, Facebook has put some barriers up there. We actually had 50,000 around our second year.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it would probably be well over 100,000 if Facebook was allowing those numbers to expand.
Wow. So it could
Yeah,
be, who knows, it could be 100,000 today if you were allowed to.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
know I'm a member, so that's one of the ways I even sort of met you. I don't think you probably even knew that I was a member because there's so many people, but I think that's when I first learned about your name, and then, going to uh Power Connectors and some of the other places that you're involved. So I know you said you believe that everyone's designed for a purpose and that sort of thing. Um, you believe that's important to build that legacy. That's not something you do by accident. That's intentional, right?
I hope, yeah, it should be intentional. You know, a lot of people fly by your seat of your pants humans, and I
Mm-hmm.
think many more don't even know that they need to create intentional, be intentional about their purpose and their reason for being, right? Because they expect, well, this is what I put on earth for, and things are just going to fall into place. That's simply not how life works.
Right. And
Yeah.
then in terms of like your family, I know we've talked a little bit in the past when we've met for coffee and things like that about your kids. I mean, they've got some stellar resumes themselves. And how do you feel like your legacy is being lived out through them now?
Well, you know, things were a little bit backwards in the Sinclair household.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, kids are following dad and
Mm-hmm.
the legacy that he's creating. But quite frankly, my kids are what inspired Dream Again uh, business consulting 5 years ago, because all of them were already C-suite executives.
Okay.
At that point, I was watching their movement one day, and I thought, wow, what family has three C-suite executives that come out of one family?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the backdrop of that? And I had to look in the mirror and say, you know what, you're one of the reasons that their movement is what it is. So next day, I went and registered Dream Again as a consulting business.
Okay. So then um that's kind of interesting. Makes me think a little bit. I'm not even sure what to do with that because I know you've told me that before, but I had sort of forgotten. So um but I imagine your kids have come back and there's something that you've done as a parent that caused that to happen. I mean, as a parent, I mean, we sometimes take too much credit,
Yep. Yep.
um, but obviously you've done something. Have your kids ever come back to you and said, "Boy, Dad, we know we've inspired you, but what maybe have they talked about that you inspired them to reach those kind of heights?"
But what we talked about, and what with all three of my children, is that their mom and I both were very, very intentional about recognizing their gifts, things that they most were engaged in, the things that were really bringing them the most energy and opportunity in their lives, and we encouraged that well. And we did that with all of them, recognizing the giftings that they were bringing to the table and encouraging. Because a lot of times parents want kids to go the way that they want them to go instead of the way that they were really designed to go. And a lot of us want to tie it to our own insecurities and who we are, and make little clones of ourselves, or worse. And we notice that our children have specific giftings in their lives and encourage that.
All right. So in terms of other people, you mentioned yourself that a lot of people aren't intentional about their lives, and that would imply about leaving a legacy to kids, family, friends, right? I think sometimes when we talk about, it's really easy, at least for me, thinking about legacy, I think about my immediate family, but there's extended family, there's friends, we mentioned clients, there's business colleagues as well. What are some other things at this point that ways you feel like that either you or maybe advice you can give to people who aren't on that track of leaving a legacy intentionally? What do you recommend to folks?
First of all, I recommend personal development, and make sure that your growth is consistent with the outcomes that you're looking for, right? And people need to think big instead of being so small minded, which business people tend to be, which really frustrates me a lot. Is we need to think big about the opportunities, because the potential for bigness is in every human being. So think big. If you shoot for the stars and hit the moon, you still have hit quite a ceiling, if you will. So that's all. Work diligently, consistently, and with discipline in your personal development. Growth is key of setting mindsets, not having a mindset that's fixed, but a growth mindset that's willing to take on new opportunities and new possibilities in your life.
Okay. And then, as you think about, you said you're an old guy. I don't even think of you as an old guy. It's kind of funny. You're so active. But, when you start thinking about things like I think about, I won't get into details about me, but, my situation with my health issues, it's made me think about, what do I want my children to think of me when I'm gone? What tangible kind of things have you kind of set out, some tangible things in your life that you plan on your kids knowing about after you're gone, or as you are going, or any of that?
I want my kids to have a legacy of that their dad loved well, that he saw the really his perspective about humans was that he saw the good in people, and that he really desired that each and every person that he had the opportunity to influence was uplifted and given an opportunity to be the best that they can be.
Right. Okay. Um, I'm kind of coming to the end here. Yes, that's kind of what we had discussed talking about. Anything that we missed that maybe you just want to comment on, and that could fit in with this discussion, maybe something I didn't ask specifically, but you've been thinking about?
Not really. I think you led it well, Doug, and we thought it's great talking to another old guy.
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, I'm a hot topic for podcasts, and people love to have me on their podcasts, and typically talking with a millennial or Gen
Oh, okay.
Xer, et cetera. So it's great talking with someone that I think I identify more closely with, and you and I are becoming quick friends, and I appreciate all that you do.
Oh, well, thanks so much, Frank. I appreciate that. Yeah, I know I appreciate everything that you do, even if sometimes I don't make it to some of the events. So I just, my comment to you is, boy, I think, there's times you're leaving a legacy with people you don't even realize it. People like me that maybe don't say it enough or don't see you enough. So, thanks for everything you do. And, I think just with that, listeners, anybody listening, thanks so much for listening. And this has been Frank Sinclair, and just a great legacy he's living and leaving to kids and colleagues and just everyone he meets. So Frank, thanks again for being with us. And yeah, we'll talk to you in person at some point.
Look
Thanks.
forward to seeing you, my friend.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Good seeing you. Thanks.
You've been listening to the Legacy Leaders Podcast with Katie Beth Hand and Stan Miller. For more information on them and the show, please visit pinnaclelegacylaw.com. If you like what you've learned today, do share the program with your friends and subscribe wherever podcasts are found.